Right, you're good to go.
I'll start with karakia. Takina te karakia. Whaia te mataranga ki marama. Kia whai take nā mahi katoa. Tu maia, tu kaha, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa. Welcome everybody in the room and online to the first Corporate Services Committee meeting of the new triennium. We have apologies noted from Francois Tumahoy and nobody else, looking for a mover and a seconder for those. All in favour? Aye. Motion carried. Declaration of interest, any to be made for today's agenda? Nothing from the table. Public forum, petitions and deputations, nothing noted. Nobody in the room. We'll move past that as well. Action list, noting the full action list is attached in our agenda. Acting CEO, we're going to have you speaking to that.
Sure, Andrew. So we've got two actions there. One is complete from the Chief Executive. That was to advise mayors, chairs and joint committee members regarding the payment requirements for the catastrophe funds. This was an agenda item on the 8th of October. And the second one I'll pass to Chair Jo.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to provide an update, this action has actually been affected by the changes in the GM roles. So me stepping back into role and then losing Peter and getting Colin on board. So I think we should commit to providing you with an update at the February meeting once Colin is settled back here in New Zealand and we can work together on how to approach this piece of work.
I appreciate the offer for February. I think it's good for us, not just for this committee, but some of the other ones to add some date stamps to these to give us a handrail so we can see when they're coming back. Thank you. Comments from the table, questions? Recommendation is, it is recommended that the committee resolve to 1, note the actions outstanding from previous triennium that are ongoing and remain relevant. 2, receive the actions list and information noted. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Andy. Well, thank you, Mark. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Chair's report. Very brief verbal report from the chair. The only person in the room newer than Colin and I is other Colin, so welcome to your new role as the GM of Corporate Services for the organisation. We'll go easy on you this meeting and we'll look forward to the next one and some changes you and I have discussed to bring to this committee, but we won't swamp the table with them now. Awesome. That very brief report needs a mover and a seconder. The recommendation is it is recommended that the committee resolve to 1, receive the chair's report. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Anyone against that? All in favour? Aye. Thank you. Into the reports. 7.1, Office of the Chief Executive Quarterly Report. I'll hand over to Jo to present to us on this.
So every quarter we provide an update really of just what's going on in my group. My group covers 6 functions, but a couple of them are covered in other committees. So Health and Safety is provided through the Risk and Assurance Committee, and the Civil Defence team provides an update through the Operations Committee. But this is an update on everything else that we're up to. The bigger things at the moment have been, of course, the elections and the induction of councillors. That's taking most of November for my team, and I need to acknowledge that they've done an amazing job there, and also acknowledge the Arahura Day was all organised by the governance team alongside our trade partners, and it was very successful. In the people and capability space, there's a lot of things there that talk about the tidying up and the getting things moving. The one that I wanted to draw your attention to is that we ran a staff engagement survey in October to see how our staff are feeling about the place. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that. And then we'll be supporting our managers to run workshops with staff around what was it that was good that came out of it that we can focus on, and what are things that we could improve as an organisation. At this stage, the survey has focused at an organisation level. We haven't broken it down to teams, but in future, I look forward to doing that as well. So we will provide you with an update on where we got to with that progress in the next quarterly update. In the communications and engagement space, noting that we've had 54 media queries and 59 responses and 27 media releases in the last quarter. That resulted in 157 stories that reference the regional council. This is quite significant, that now our team actually monitors and captures and can report on all of the work we're doing. But the other thing I would suggest is that the slant of the media is changing to be quite positive, which is great. I just wanted to note that October was massive for us, that people were using our website for the information, particularly the hydrology information and the rainfall information during the storms. We had a lot of hits. So that's showing that people are starting to understand where to go to get that. So that's really good as well. And finally, in facilities and fleet, really just to note that we're trying to build a maintenance plan and a capital improvements plan for how we want to work over the next 12 months and get a little bit more strategic. To date, it's been quite reactive with whatever breaks we fix. But we've now finally got a builder on board to work with us on looking at the building and how we can maintain it better. And so that will turn into a maintenance program. And also just noting we've got a capital budget for this financial year. However, I'm suspecting we will have to move some of that into the next financial year, but we will have a capital plan over the next few months too on how we're going to do that.
Thanks, Joe. Questions or comments from the table?
Just one, Joe, on the building faculties we've had a bit of work done over the years regarding earthquake strengthening, the Smoko room and a couple of other things. Could we just have a little bullet point sometime of what we've actually done and what's outstanding, if there is anything outstanding? Because it seems to be a shifting goalpost subject and the government's just pulled back with a lot of requirements. So I'd just like to know where we're at.
Yes, the changes in the laws has changed the requirements of things that we were trying to get to doing. Had them at the top of the list. They're not necessarily at the top of the list, although I still think it would be good practice for us to be thinking about that earthquake strengthening.
Anything from anyone else?
Through the chair, is it up to earthquake standard?
It is up to the earthquake requirements. I'm not about to quote the specific percentage that we're at right now, but we are above as a total building, but there are areas that are stronger than others. So we were seeking to strengthen some of the other areas.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I could comment there. The reports that I've read said that overall our building is at 37%, which exceeds the 33%, recommended standard. But that is an amalgamation of the total building. That 37% doesn't represent individual bits of the building, which can be significantly higher than that, or maybe even a bit lower than that. But that's the way that the law was, and now we have the new regulations that have come out, which we need to analyse. So it's really we are lawful. We're under the regulations, new and old. We're okay to be in the building. It is really about, from two perspectives, the duty of care that we want to give to our staff in the event of an earthquake in the building, and what percentage do we want to be relative to the cost. And the second thing is, from a resilience point of view, as a public authority, local government with a civil defence function, I know we've got our emergency coordination centre, but there's a whole lot of other functions we're going to need to run and keep running during, post an event. And here I'm thinking about earthquake, and from a resilience point of view, where do we want to invest at, to what level, to make sure that the building is functioning post an earthquake? Thanks.
Thanks, Darren.
Joe, the staff survey you did, was that internal or third party?
Internal.
And if there's nothing else from the table, I just want to pass on my thanks as a recently elected member for your team's work throughout, obviously, the campaign and this type of induction. It's been great, and I know it's appreciated as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and likewise. Yeah.
The recommendation is, it is recommended that the committee resolve to, 1, receive the report. Looking for a mover and seconder, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. All in favour? Carried. 7.2, Lagoima quarterly report, and I'll go again for this one.
So we also quarterly provide you with an update on all of the Lagoima requests that we've received over the quarter. There were 24 requests that we received. 22 of them were processed within statutory timeframes. One was withdrawn and one did not meet the statutory timeframe. The one that was not met was actually quite a failing. It got lost in a person's emails. So we didn't know about it until somebody actually complained to the Ombudsman. Would have been great if they'd rung us instead, but however. So that has been quite a failing, and we've had to respond to the Ombudsman that we've looked into the process and we've tried to change the process now so that there's always two people aware of a Lagoima when it comes in. It had come through our information and gone directly to a person. And instead we're making sure that now one of the governance team is aware of all Lagoima requests in the first instance. The other thing about that one is it means that we fail our non-financial performance level KPI for that because it has 100% expectation. So because we've had one in the first quarter, that means we're going to fail that for the whole financial year, which is a real shame. But usually we end up at about 98-95% of them all done within the statutory timeframe. So just acknowledging that one up front because it'll come up again in the KPIs when Colin talks about them later. Other than that, there is a list provided for you for all of the Lagoima requests, and you'll see that there's many and varied topics. We are noting though that the TTPP requests are starting to increase, and I suspect they will over the next little while during the appeals phase of the TTPP. Beyond that, it really is just for your information.
Can we have some point on 3593, the one that was withdrawn? And is that common for a Lagoima request to go into then be pulled?
It is consent requirements. Sometimes we'll ring them up and clarify questions. I actually don't know the details on why that one was withdrawn, but sometimes we'll clarify the question and they can find the information in other ways, or it's available, or we can answer a question over the phone.
Questions or comments from the table? One I'm quite hot on in the space. Obviously, cost is a barrier to free and access to information, but obviously there's a large cost to the organisation involved in Lagoimas. I don't know that we have a metric on it, but there's one on the work with the corporate services team on providing tables so we're aware of the cost of that, 24 of those over a quarter, extrapolate that out, if not more. Maybe more so just for information, but it is a large cost to this organisation, as is every organisation. And I think it's a metric we need to keep our eye on. Not saying we need to charge for them because that's not playing the democratic game, but there's a really real metric we need to keep our eye on.
Yes. We do a mixture of contracting out the processing of our Lagoimas. Just for those of you who are new, we have been more and more bringing it in-house since we've had two in the governance team. That, of course, with Dion leaving, leaves us down a little bit. But we have a very, very experienced contractor named Tony Morrison who processes and supports us for the complex cases. So yes, there is a legitimate cost that we can quantify for processing our Lagoimas. I have got it on my long-term to-do list to develop a policy around charging for Lagoimas. Traditionally, you don't, but some of them, when they get really complex and time-consuming, and if you start to get a lot from the same applicant, you can also look to charge. So we have charged for a couple in the last year, and I want to do some more work on how to approach that in the future.
Yeah, it can be a dangerous tool if weaponised against the organisation.
Yes.
And through the chair, have those ones charged paid?
We did have one that did complain to the Ombudsman about the proposed charge. The Ombudsman agreed with part of the charge and disagreed with another part of the charge, but in the end, yes, it was paid and we processed the the Goima.
Nothing else from the table? Cool. The recommendation is as follows. It is recommended that the committee resolve to 1, receive the report, and 2, note the requests for information received under the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 for the period of 1 July to 30 September 2025. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Thank you. Andy, thank you. All in favour? Right. Enough to carry it. Pass. 7.3, Q1 financial reports. Welcome to the hot seat, Colin.
Colin?
Yeah. And before I start, I'd just like to introduce Tracy and Chantal online, who's here to support me. So if there's anything I can't quite answer correctly, I'll look at them for providing information. What through the chair, I'll begin with the report. So this reporting here covers the months, the first quarter of the year, July through to September. And referring to page 12 of the larger report, and as you can see, we're about 2.3 million behind our budgeted surplus for the month, for the quarter. And that's really driven by our subsidies and grants. And there's two elements to that. One's a timing difference of receiving the money and recognizing the revenue. So without getting too complicated, although you might have received the grant funding, we only recognize it once the expense has been incurred and we match it that way. And so that's the first reason. The second reason is the budget's phased on a 1/12. So that in itself will cause timing differences as we move through the year. And that will most probably be one of the reasons month by month, quarter by quarter going forward. So that's really contributing and the main reason for why we've got a adverse variance for the first quarter. Going through our user fees and charges, if we have a look at our quarterly revenue, that's slightly down on our budget. And the first quarter, I think that it's probably not seasonal as well. I expect the summer months to carry a higher work in the winter months. And also within our user fees and grants, where we would have perhaps done the work for, we haven't yet invoiced the claimant. So that's driving as well. Then internally looking at how we can probably streamline recognizing a charge to be on charge to the ratepayer or whoever we have done the service for. So going forward, what we're really trying to do is get closer to our budget and get pretty good practice across those areas. Those are the main areas. Personnel costs very much on budget, and then the other expenses over. And if we go to the comments, that's most of the TPP overruns, and that has to do with hearings and compliance costs really driving the majority of that. If I look at our balance sheet, and I think to put it simply, we have cash in reserves to meet our commitments and our credit payments. From a cash perspective, we in a good position. If we have a look at our accounts receivables, people owing us money, we would have done our billings, our rates in September, and that has pushed up our debtors. That's not to say that we can't improve our debtor days going forward. And I can use that tidier. Short of that, you can see across our property, plant, and equipment. That includes our work in progress, and that's a fair increase. So that's looking at our work in progress included in that, and with the rate and capital works that's sort of got that value or that balance up. I'll take any further questions on our balance sheet or the income statement. But I think the most important part of the balance sheet is that we do have the cash to meet our commitments.
Through the chair, just an observation, Colin. Really, it's just to do with the ebbs and flows, the peaks and drops, really just flattening them out finally.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
That's
the comment. That's all.
Any other questions or comments from the table? Bottom of page 12, Colin. Workers progressing and tightening up process in the consent and compliance to ensure all revenue is recognised. Is that fundamentally around a cost recovery for consent applications?
right. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing else from the table? And the recommendation reads, it is recommended that the committee resolve to, one, receive the report. Looking for a mover and a seconder.
Move that, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. 7.4, quarterly non-financial performance report. Colin.
All right, this is probably not as comfortable in this area as the finances. What I'll do is take the report as read and invite questions from the councillors.
Questions from the table?
Me.
Cool. I guess there's a new councillor coming in. I've got a few observations on those. Obviously, one headline reads 73%. Those are achieved 22 of 29, but if you dig a bit deeper, there's 31 can't be measured because it doesn't have KPI this year, or a stop due to central government. One, a reorganisation within the group structure here is mean that it can't be measured or it's not passed because of that. So the true number there, that percent, probably closer to 90% achievement there, as opposed to the 73 that is recorded at a real level. So I just wanted to make note of that. I have a couple of questions. Matt's not in the room, possibly Shanti. The failure, real-time river level and rain available at all times. Great.
Yes, so we've got a comms issue which I've raised with councillors in terms of the Buller catchment. So I'll be bringing a paper to councillors in the next EMC on 2nd December. We've received some government money to improve the comms, which is great. Again, it's one of those targets which is 100%. So if you have one site go out once during a flood event, then you failed for the year. Yeah. We failed last year as well. So it's a very tough KPI to pass. But in saying that, it is very important to our community, and that site that did go out is really important to Mokahanui. So 100% is really what we want to be. So set that target appropriately. But we do have measures in place to improve the redundancies.
Great. The KPI with no target for 25-26 rating groups asset management plans, is that directed directly at Matt?
That would be Michael or Tom. Asset management plans are scheduled for review, usually around LTP time.
There's a KPI in that list of 30. There's no target for 25-26.
Thanks to come back to you on that.
No worries. Thank you.
Our current asset management plans were created in the last LTP in their 3-year document. You can find those online. It provided Colin with some of those yesterday for the upcoming rating district meetings. And they're renewed every 3 years. So the KPI just aligns with that renewal cycle.
So in the 2 years where it's on LTP cycle, there wouldn't be KPIs.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. That answers that question perfectly. Don't worry about coming back to me, Michael. Cool. Nothing else from the table?
Through the chair, Orikaka, is that?
One of our travel sites.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I believe it's back up online now, but we're just having a radio comms problem. So the whole network is just needs renewing. So we're putting satellites as well.
Is it subject to vandalism?
That one did get vandalized, yeah. So someone actually pulled the unit out and just dropped it on the ground. So never know, yeah. So I think the team are going to put some controls around that to try to reduce the likelihood that happens again.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Nothing else from the table? Cool. The recommendations read, it is recommended that the committee resolve to receive the report, to note the reported performance for Q1. Looking for a mover. Colin, seconder. Thank you, Chris. All in favour?
Aye.
It's enough to carry it. And nothing on the public excluded agenda for this. We'll go to general business. Anything from the table? Great. Well, if there's nothing else, we will call the meeting to a close at 9:55. Thank you, everybody who has joined us in the room and online.
Welcome, everyone, and everyone online. Apologies. Can I please call for apologies? Francois, I'll move if Francois be apology. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Yes. Declarations of interest? None. Public forums, petitions and deputations? Again, there's none. Action list. We've got a few old action lists here today. I think there's 16 items. I'll pass it over to the group management of catchment, and we'll both run through it together. Michael.
Thank you very much. This is my first time here, so thanks for having me. Just wanted to point out that seeing I'm new in the role, I want to just find a different kind of flavour, probably going to be more strategic in my actions. And I'll be relying on a support team. So I've got Tom over there who was the incumbent. I've got Wayne who's just about to join us. He's doing more the BAO. And seeing it's so visible construction, I understand that you'll all have lots of questions, so that's why the support team's here. So if I can start off on the first one. So that the Wanganui training scheme. So that's where that the rating scheme was offered a money to do capital plan, that turned that down, and so we're coming back as a council to say where our position is. So that's due in December. That's where we're wanting to talk about the insurances, perhaps the crest levels, the construction methodology, and looking at the risk to the council of and effects. What's the risk to the council? So that's still in train. The insurance part, Sean's not leading that, but I'm probably not sure I can get it all done by December. Probably needs, because there's a lot more work in it. We probably need to put that out to February.
Action 2.
All right. Orphan lists. So we have got there. So I've got 26 on the list at the moment. We think we're going to add to that as we're going on, and we can also see, besides orphan lists, you've got where different councils we're meeting up with. We've got shared assets. I'm not too sure where that is. So next time I'll add in the orphan list. So that's just appendicized. Then that's ever going to, it might go away in a few years, but that's going to take some time to go through.
Action 3.
Through the chair, are we able to get a list of those orphan assets? Is that...
Yeah, sure. Next time I'll append that in. So I've got the list now. I'll append it in. So it'll be a constant agenda item. You can have a look at that list. When you're putting new subdivisions in, it's the discharge into the rivers. We're particularly looking at the Salt Creek, but just generically. So I've got a meeting with the chief engineer and the lead from Great District Council on Friday to talk through how we're going to manage that at a generic level rather than a specific one.
Action.
Yeah, through the chair. I just had a question on the orphan asset list.
Yep.
Is that only going to be for the rivers that have got rating schemes on them, or
No,
Everything.
it's separate.
Everything.
yeah? Because there is a lot of like catchment ward assets on other rivers.
And it's certainly open once you have the list. We don't know that we've got a list of the orphans, and we're seeing them. We saw one in the event a few weeks ago. We found another one when we were looking at the map. That. So I think it's something we'll be adding into constantly.
Is it something that councillors could possibly help with?
I think if you had the community is saying, hey, we think this is an awful one, I'll bring it up. If I can just lead into that with Kelly's work was looking at the asset management. We've got all our assets from across our region at one place. It's easy enough then to go, you've got something, as long as we have a pinpoint where it is, we can see whether it's one of our assets or not. And then it's who does own it. Is it the district council, or is it ourselves, or is it an orphan? So yes, I'm certainly open to people offering up assets they think might be orphans.
So
Are you
action.
saying that because you think you have some?
It's just that Daryl mentioned a while ago that he was not really too keen on, just to say, a couple of people being a women's rating district and an orphan asset, whereas will you have a certain level of structure that will, fit the bill, make it?
One of our assets, you mean?
Yes.
I suppose you have to look at it as you went by, because you've got to look at the structural integrity.
Some sort of a standard.
Yeah, we can't just accept, if we just accept anything, we're taking on the risk ourselves as council. We wouldn't want to see that we took on risk that. It depends on the integrity.
Could I just please make a comment there, Michael and Mr. Chairman? And before Councillor Cole was on council with us last term, there was a paper that was passed by this committee outlining the process for orphan assets and a stepwise procedure for analysing them and making decisions about them. Can I just record an action point that we circulate that paper to all councillors, existing ones as a refresher, but the new ones as new information so you're aware of what that process is. Thanks.
Thank you, Daryl. Action 4.
Sorry, can I just jump in there? Excuse my ignorance. Orphan asset, I understand orphan asset as in it's not NZTA, it's not DOC, it's not a district council, it's not a regional council, it's not a private landowner.
No one's taking ownership for it.
But no one wants the liability going forward.
Yeah, it depends on how the integrity to it. So something's been built. We don't know who built it. Was it somebody? You know, it could have been a landowner. But we're trying to figure out, should it be incorporated into the schemes?
And historic, does this come back from catchment day?
Yes,
Go that far back? Thank you.
Is that the last discussion on action 3?
Yep.
Excellent. Action 4, 5, 6, 7 are complete, so we'll move on to action 8.
With 6, I actually wrote it's complete, but I do need to go through that just action there.
So you want to go through action 6?
Action 6, yes.
All right.
So that's looking at the spur on the Wanganui River. So that I know that you're interested in that. That NZTA had come back. They've done a review of that. They're saying there is no negative effect by what they've done. That there's if the landowner on the other side, on the true left, thinks there's something happening, that could be because of the lay of the river not. So we also concurred with NZTA. So we're saying we agree with that, and also there's no consent required in retrospect.
Okay.
Question? Yes. I've got a couple of questions on this particular one. Just for clarity, because it does come up often, we've used two terminologies here, spur and groin.
Right.
We have one, we'll not have a distinction between two because it does confuse. Again, we're missing the terminology true left or true right. So we have either, please. And I didn't know there was a qualifier on the Act when you do emergency work. There's a retrospective consent. It does require retrospective consent. I'm not aware of any qualifier, so it's not needed when you do it for emergency work. So I'm just a little bit puzzled with this one.
I'd have to get my colleague Matt, he's more informed about that, but I was told I didn't need a consent.
So that's this one.
So that's something I had to come back and ask.
That's the thing. And you say there that NZTA come back and they've validated that they take the position that there's no adverse effect as a result of the work. Well, that must be validated with some signed off engineering view, or was it just an office comment?
I'll get our chief engineer to come back to confirm that to you.
And again, with the same question on page 4, an investigation of the site confirmed that NZTA are correct. Is that us?
Yes.
Or was it another report? Well, I'd like to see that particularly, because it raises the issue on this particular river for a certain landowner. He's trying to lift his by a couple of 100 millimetres or 300 over 200 metres, and he can't do it because parties say there is an effect on the other side. Well, I'd just like to know the tonnage of the spur, what NZTA put into the spur on this particular work, because if we put the tonnage against the run of a couple of truckloads of gravel, I just want to know clarity what the difference is in that particular case, that the landowner seems to be having a bit of a problem with it. You know, there's rules that are all applicable to everyone. Well, if there's no adverse effect on a run of a road because truck wheels have subsided to level, and all you're doing is filling up the hole by 400 or 500 millimetres over a limited length on one side of the river, well, the methodology and the reasoning of NZTA saying there's no adverse on the other side of the big river. The old report. But well, wait till I see.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah, I'll wait to see.
Yeah.
I'll see the report or see
Yeah.
how it's written,
No, that's
because there must be some background to it and signed off by a professional engineer from NZTA, I presume.
I'll get those reports.
Thank you.
For an answer to you today.
Just
Yep.
through the chair, like, the issue with that spur was the river's hitting it, and you can see the flow of the river's coming straight off that and straight to the other side, and that's where the complaint comes from, the other side. They see that as causing the issue. So, well, apparently now it's the alignment of the bank up, so that's the expert advice we've got there, so I suppose that's the answer we're gonna take. The one about the raising of the bank, it's been surveyed and it is actually allowed to be increased by 200 millimetres.
Very well. So that's action 6. So going to action 8. And I could probably talk to this a wee bit along with Darryl to investigate the legal status of Organs Island land transfer report back. It's sort of ongoing, but it's nearing end, isn't it, Darryl? Is that correct?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman, and I've just been dealing with this matter this morning. We now have, as I understand it, a draft vesting document to vest the land in Organs Island via Department of Conservation in the Regional Council for the purposes of floodplain management, which will get reviewed legally and professionally. And we also now have what they call a shapefile, which is the registered survey boundary of the land, to enable us to plot it and understand the exact legal boundaries of this land. We've received that. And we've also received the current lease document pertaining to the land, which we're getting reviewed. So all of that will culminate in a paper coming back to this committee, hopefully with a recommendation that all this paperwork and everything is in order, and asking council to endorse receiving the vesting of this land as a local purpose reserve for flood management purposes within us. Thanks.
Thank you. Action number 9. I'll pass on to you, Colin, on that one.
I'll do it.
Yep.
So I've got my colleague Matt, he's given me a verbal on that, so I'll just read it out, and it's to start off rather than I've got the got a paperwork on it. So he's telling me land may be used in a manner that contravenes a rule in the district plan if the use was lawfully established before the rule came operative, i.e. no consent needed for the if the use is discontinued for a period of more than 12 months, then the consent will be required as considered this to be a new activity. Consent may be required for new works, but existing will be grandfathered. So I need to write a paper on that. I didn't particularly understand when he told me it. I didn't understand, so I need to write a paper on it, but he started the work on that. So what he's basically saying, it's about proof. If you've done something and there is nothing to go one way or another, the landowner can then come and say, I believe this is a grandfathered rights and I don't need consent. And then the council then would go one way or another.
Brilliant. Thank you. Action number 10, I can talk to that. West Coast Emergency Management to connect with Buller Electricity and McIntyre Contracting. It's not McIntyre Transport, it's just a bit of a Jericho area there. The update on that is that work is completed and it's due to go live for its first test on the 17th of December. So it's just an update on that one. Action 11.
So that's the Kiwi Rail at Cats Creek. So that's been approved on this one.
Say that again, sorry?
So it's been approved.
Has it been done?
No, because it's a maintenance program. Is that correct? Going to go into maintenance? Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's sorry. No, Cats Creek. That's been approved.
Yes.
Sorry. Yep. Excellent.
So it's been approved, but hasn't been done yet?
No, it's not done to my knowledge.
I can confirm that that work hasn't been done yet.
No. But it's in the pipeline to be done. Yeah. Okay. Action point number 12. They're all complete, so yeah. No one wants to hook to any of that. That's the one.
So that's actually in the papers for the regulatory ratings. Yes.
So action point number 14. Can you talk to that, please? Even though it's complete. Is this the one you?
No, that's actually, that's combined with two actions, so they're the same one.
They are the
So,
same.
yeah. So-
That's where I got confused. So nothing's related to Stevens Road on that. It's all to do with Cat Street.
Those were the two.
Both Cat Street. Okay, well, that's wrong confused. Okay, I'm saying that then. That's the end of the action list. Can I please have a mover for the action list? Colin, thank you. Executive. Thanks, Peter Young. Rightio. Chair's report. First operations committee meeting for the first triennium. Basically, what I've got to say is pretty short and sweet. There's a heck of a lot of work to be done when you talk Fox, Strands, Waiho, Hokitika, Grey, and Westport flood schemes. So there's millions of dollars worth of work to be done in the near future. There needs to be a real good collaboration with the public and the council moving forward to complete these schemes and for the resilience of the whole West Coast. That's the Chair's report. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Chris. Righto, we'll move to reports now. You're still in the hot seat there, Michael. So it's the Waiho Avulsion update. It's a recommendation the committee resolved to receive the report. Can I please have a mover? Thanks, Peter. Seconder. I'll let you talk to this. 7.1. We'll run out of room here. Morning, Tom.
Yes, I can talk.
Chair.
Chair. You done? I'm getting used to it. Okay, so from my perspective, there's 2 or 3 things I'd like to speak to you about like the catchment report. The first one is section 1.5, so an update on the Waiho Avulsion.
Yep.
We now have the technology to carry out our own LiDAR surveys in-house. So following some observations by some of the local community members down there, one of our team went down and carried out a survey of the area in question, and we had that analysed against the LiDAR that was flown back in March, and that analysis was carried out by Land River C. And what that's telling us is, in short, that the avulsion is progressing faster than modelled and forecast. And Havel's Wall is at risk of uncutting significantly sooner than earlier predicted. So clearly that has significant implications for the town's wastewater treatment plant and other infrastructure between Waiho and the Tartary. Now what we're doing, we've communicated that quite clearly to Westland District Council and are waiting to hear back from them on what their plan is in terms of what they're thinking about the relocation of the treatment plant. In the meantime, what we're doing is we've taken a step back to the joint committee meeting of August, where the community declined the opportunity to contribute a local share to the extension of the Havel's Wall and ask some questions about alternative options. So I've now got a draft report on my desk for me to review, which outlines a range of options from do nothing through to the full Monty, which is that extension of 400 metres downriver, and we'll use that as a discussion document with the District Council, with the community, MB as our funding agency, Kānai, and others as appropriate to work way forward. So this is really an FYI for councillors so that they understand what we're seeing down there and what our direction of travel is within our ability to control things. And we'll keep you updated on a month-by-month basis.
Through Chair. Tom, thank you for the update. Probably isn't the right way to frame it, but thank you for your update. Has the community been updated on this? Or are they going to catch it in the media tomorrow?
They haven't as yet. We have got a meeting with the working group scheduled for early December. Councillor Caston, but the timing on that isn't quite right. So take your lead on how you want to progress with the community. I'm happy to get that report out this evening to the working group at least. And we don't know who's sitting on the joint committee for Friends just yet from Westland District Council. We haven't been.
My understanding of the terms of reference is it's Mia and the 2 Southern Ward councillors, so that should be. Yeah. Could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
Okay, so I'd really try and make that available to joint committee.
I think that's I'm definitely for that. In terms of your comments around significantly sooner around the undercutting of the Hebble Wall, do you have a time stamp on that?
That's what how long's a piece of string.
Yeah.
Okay, so
worst case scenario, best case scenario.
Up until now, we understood that this was largely influenced by storm events. That doesn't appear to be the case. It appears to be a progressive thing. So it develops at a steady rate, but can be exacerbated by storm events. So the time frame we were working on was 5 years from last year, so 4 years from now. So it could be anywhere between 2 and 4 years. I don't know. It's very hard to tell. Okay. So the modelling work that we've done, the geomorphological modelling work that we've done, what we've seen over the last few months is that's predicting things to occur a bit more slowly than is actually the case. Okay.
And whilst it's progressing naturally by itself, storm events will exacerbate it further, correct? Storm events will continue to exacerbate it further.
Yeah, so for argument's sake, well, for example, those 2 storm events late October, we did see some lateral or accelerated lateral erosion out of both of those storm events.
Any more questions on 7.1? Go ahead, Darryl.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if I could just make a couple of quick comments here, and I'd like to hear from Chair Smith in terms of what we heard last Friday in Wellington with the regional sector meeting, Chair Smith. But the comments, firstly a technical comment, what we're finding is that the sediment in the Waiho around the avulsion area and where the avulsion is actually occurring is of sufficiently small size that even normal flows of the Waiho are sufficient to erode and move that sediment. It does not now seem that we need even a mediocre flood with increased velocity to mobilise that sediment. So that's why this is probably occurring faster than what we thought. However, what I would say, and I think it was what you're intimating there, Mr. Chairman, is that, certainly floods of any size over and above normal base flows will simply exacerbate this avulsion and the back cutting and make it go faster. We have been in a rather benign period, really, without reasonable floods down there. And so when we do get one, it will exacerbate it. The second point I want to make here, councillors, is that we are now under pressure from Kānoa about what is the fate of the money that's left over if we are not given there's no decision to extend Hippel's Wall. What we heard on Friday in Wellington at the regional sector, the chair and I, is that there are many other projects in New Zealand that need this money, and we're going to become under considerable pressure to say what we want to do here, and if we and either expend the money and make a case for it in conjunction with Westland District Council, or the time is coming very quickly where we're going to have to make the decision, if there's no decision forthcoming on that, to simply give the money back, because the Minister has many uses for this money in the Regional Infrastructure Fund space. But I wonder if Chair Smith might want to comment on that too. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. It's very clear that performance in each of the regional councils, their performance in terms of when this money is allocated to undertake these works, the performance of each regional council reflects against the whole group. So if for the whole regional sector to maintain trust with central government, we all need to be performing. So if one region's letting the side down in terms of either not using the money, then that reflects right across the sector. So it's really important for us that we don't just let this one carry on ad infinitum. We need to deal with it. We need to either we need to be seen with Western making a decision in terms of the use of that money, one way or the other, as Daryl said. Really, really important. It reflects right across the sector, not just us.
So on that note, would there be an action taken on that, Daryl? What?
Look, I'm conscious that the Chair Smith has been in communication with Mayor Lash over this matter.
Yeah.
So
leave it at that level?
Yeah, Chair Smith, is a comment here from you?
Yes, I have raised this issue with Mayor Lash, who then went back to her council to check, because I raised the fact that we needed to have a decision in terms of this funding, in terms of the extension. I then received notice back from Mayor Lash that they weren't, well, effectively going back a step. The suggestion was that if the local community weren't prepared to contribute the local share, then it would the decision would have to be, is this to become a general rating matter right across the district? And when Mayor Lash came back, she said that no, they didn't think it was a matter that could be dealt with by way of a general rating. And the indication was that there was an indication that they would be seeking more time to make a decision. And that's where we're at the moment.
Because the messaging from central government is use it or lose it, isn't it, basically?
Yes, well, like I said earlier, if we're not proactive in using this money and not seem to be using it effectively and in reasonable time, then it reflects on all regional sectors.
Yep.
Okay. Through the chair, can I make a engineering comment because it's germane to this discussion? Is that okay?
No problem at all, Peter. Go ahead. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and good morning, new councillors and chair. I haven't met you yet, but I will. And a big welcome. Tom has given a very good summary. The Havels Wall, it has a lot of implications, as we realise. And we've heard from Tom the 2 to 4 years for the abortion. I'm not sure they're obviously the ponds, they need relocating. But if this happens within 2 years, there will be difficulties there, perhaps. So I can only add my engineering encouragement to the extension of Havels Wall. And I realise that perhaps we're pushing against nature in the long term. But where that wall terminates, we have to make down certain that we have a very deep embedment of the rock to make it as robust as possible. So sorry, that's my humble engineering assessment here.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Peter. Andy.
Through the chair, that was my question was, is it worth extending the Havel Wall just for temporary period. It's but the wall that's there now is under risk. What are we going to extend it for to fall in again? Are we better to use that money with the district council to start getting the ponds shifted? Because that's the end goal, isn't it?
That's
So,
above my pay grade.
Mr. Chairman, I want a comment here. The money that's been allocated to the regional council sector across the country, including us, is for the purposes of flood protection. It cannot and would not ever be used with authority from ministers to go towards an upgrade or relocation of a Three Waters asset. So that's not a pathway that's available without major conversations with ministers and a full departure away from the funding criteria. And of course, what that would open up, of course, is many other district councils around the country requesting regional infrastructure funding to pay for their Three Waters. And it's been a very deliberate decision of government not to do that at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl.
Yeah, I was down at the August meeting when the locals pretty clearly said that they're not interested in extending the Havel Ward. So I'm actually surprised that you're still pursuing this. You're better off to give the money back to the government, because you're going to end up putting more cost on the ratepayers. You end up having to meet their share. They're already pretty heavily rated down there. I'm a bit concerned that the threat has been exaggerated. The river's cutting down. Just stand and watch it in the meantime. The suggestion was we spend $3 million to, it was only going to protect the ponds for another 3 years. $1 million a year. Complete waste of time and money. So I'll be voting against this because I think we're wasting our time. And the other issue is all this gravel and water and everything is coming out of the government land, out of the dock estate. Most of the land involved is public land or dock land. Why are the poor old ratepayers down in Franz Joseph being landed with the cost of fixing all this? So you're going to send those people broke the way you're going, loading the costs on. Thank you.
Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Ewan.
Yeah, I was down at that meeting in August, and I was also there for the previous one, coming up a year, in the new year, I think, the first one, when the was clearly spelled out. And what was clearly spelled out in August was the rejection by those on the south side to contribute to a Westland asset that was funded by Westland at large to put in the wall in front of it as a temporary measure, which won't last 5 minutes given the structure of it. It's unfortunate. This council at Westland is now at the end of the road of previous councils that deferred or recited the ponds where they are, where they shouldn't have been, when the opportunity was available to go down Crons Road. Now, I'm in agreement with Councillor Birchall. I can't for the life of me see them voting in favour of it again if it goes to the southern side, because the threat is going to accelerate quicker, and 3 million, whatever it may be, will be down the tube. So I can't see that happening. Really, Westland have got to do it at large if they want to protect the business and the vitality of what tourism is down there. Otherwise, it's going to fail, because if you don't have public support, I certainly wouldn't be going against what the locals want. They want septic tanks on the southern side. It's not for them to protect sewage ponds that they don't even contribute to in a physical sense. The one question I want to ask is we're coming up 12 months, as I said. Westland very determinedly, and they made the point, they want to lead the master plan. Have we got page 1 yet of the master plan from Westland, nearly a year on? Has anything been done? Is anyone aware of it? The chief executive, Tom? Or is it still blank pages?
Excuse me. Carol, I think you're best placed to speak to that one.
Sorry, was that directed at me?
Well, through the chair is there any master plan? We've got page 1 of it yet, 12 months on nearly. From listening.
Yeah, so sorry, that's no, no.
You through the chair, can I suggest that that I follow up with Mayor Lash?
Yep.
On this particular point.
Yes.
And then report back to council.
That sounds like a great idea.
So Colin, it might be worth offering that we do have expertise in-house through our principal natural hazards analyst, and we're working with BDC on master planning, and the regional council is to provide technical advice to help with that, and we're really willing to do that. So if you'd like to take up that offer, then we're keen to sit down with those staff and talk about roles and responsibilities and how to address it.
Okay. Do you want to send me an email, Shanti, just outlining that?
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent, all right.
Through the chair, can I just clarify a couple of things for Councillor Birchfield? Councillor Birchfield, we're not, in presenting this item, we're not asking you to vote on anything in particular.
Can you speak up, please?
We're not asking you to vote on anything in particular here. What I'm outlining is what we're doing to provide the community with the information that they need to make decisions. Okay.
I was just voting against it to make a point that I totally disagree with even with the report. I think it's we've just got to stand back and let nature take its course. And I'm more concerned about the costs going on to the ratepayers. They're already pretty heavily rated for this scheme down there.
So I'm suggesting or proposing a range of options. We're not necessarily proposing that those costs land with the ratepayers. What we're doing is providing information about a range of options, pros and cons for each, and that can facilitate discussion about what, if anything, is done and who pays for it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm just making a point. Yeah.
Excellent, all right. No more discussion on 7.1. Move on to 7.2. Hokitika seawall consents, update next steps.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, can we just back a step? So we've had the market catchment report. We took one item in that report.
7.2 says Hokitika seawall, next one down.
Within 7.1, there's a couple of other things I'd like to.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Sorry. So the first one is section 3.4.1 in the monthly catchment report, which is a bit of discussion about tranche 2.
Yes.
We spoke with councillors on Thursday about our bids to that fund and the fact that they had been successful. We've been working through getting the contract with Carmel finalised. The only reason to raise it again is one, to get it on the minutes for this meeting, but also to note that we'll start formal reporting on project progress with those projects from the next meeting, or as soon as we've got the contract signed up. Memories, that's Hokitika stage 3.
Yes.
And Greymouse stages 2, 4 and 5 and the replacement floodgates.
Mr. Chairman, just a figure that I'd just like to comment on page 30. Just with Rose Begley's the implications of the development are just at the bottom of her commentary. It's a bit of it's either typo or it could be 2 other words that could be quite changing. Havel's wall could become at risk of undercutting significantly. No, it should be significantly, or become at risk of undercutting significance, which word, I think it's the first word that I sooner than predicted. So we just want to get that one because the PS at the bottom is always the important thing, and this is the final closer. And it's just a typo, but no, we want to be very sure what we're meaning here, because if it's an adjective or a verb or a noun, it could make a hell of a difference. So
Thanks. Leave that with me. Section 3.4.2, tranche 3. And I just want to speak to you briefly about progress with that part of the regional infrastructure fund for resilience projects. So it's reported previously that there had been a call from Minister Jones for councils to submit bids to a possible tranche 3. And there was quite a bit of work done by the catchment management group to put those bids together and submit them on time. We now understand that there was over $900 million worth of projects submitted from around the country, 43 million of which were from this council. We now know that approximately 300 million worth of those projects have made the first cut and been put forward to Minister Jones for his consideration. That first cut includes $37 million worth of projects from the West Coast Regional Council, namely unfunded parts of the Westport Protection Scheme project, a program we're referring to as Greymouth Small Catchments. So that's Range Creek, the attenuation basin at Range Creek, which those of you that are on the joint committee at Greymouth will remember from a presentation last February, and also the work that we're proposing to do, the investigative work that we're actually not proposing to do, we've been authorised to do through the joint committee and council looking at Saltwater Creek here. And then finally, Hokitika Stage 2 at Canary, which I know there's an error in that report. I've got that as Stage 3, it should be Stage 2. Okay, so we won't know anything more about the likelihood of those bids being approved until at least the middle of next year. Okay.
Re-election. Yeah. Sounds promising, though, Tom. Very good. Excellent. No more on that report?
I think just it's worth noting the operational parts of this report as well. One of the strategic focuses of this council was being more responsive to issues in the rating districts and making sure that we were responding timely to events. And the work you can see at Mokahinui Rating District shows that the area engineer responded within a week and repaired the damage to the bund.
Yep. So
it's just a positive news story to look like, okay, we've listened to the community and the area engineers responding in a positive way. And you'll hear that over the next 3 months, hopefully, at the rating district meetings.
Excellent. I appreciate it. Thank you, Shanti. Okay. 7.2, Hokitika Seawall Consents, Update, Next Steps, Recommendation. It's recommended that the committee resolve to receive the report. I have a mover. Peter, seconder. Okay, Tom.
Thank you, councillors. So I just want to be clear that when we're talking Hokitika Seawall consents, because there are a number of different seawalls owned by different parties down there, I'm talking about the proposed seawall extension and existing temporary seawall that run between Stafford Street and Richards Drive at the north end of Victoria. So I've previously briefed both the joint committee and this committee, the operations committee, on this legacy issue, and proposed direction of travel with those consent applications was endorsed and approved by the JC and operations committee respectively. Chair Smith, I think most of, if not all of these councillors here are well aware of the history of this one, here including Councillor Catton through his time. So just briefly, over a period between about 2019 and 2021, there was a series of erosion events that really did nibble away on the dune system between properties on the seaward side of River Street and the beach. Council and Joint Committee at the time saw an opportunity to apply for funding and was successful with it to extend the seawall from its existing location at Stafford Street all the way north. So that was funded through the RG projects. While planning and design for that extension was underway, those erosion events continued, and the decision was taken to under emergency works provisions, place a temporary seawall. It's really just a non-engineered single layer of rock sitting on some bitumen cloth up against the erosion scarp, just to hold things in place in the meantime while planning and design for the seawall extension was completed. Around about 2022, it became pretty apparent that council didn't have enough money to proceed with the seawall extension. So the funding that was available from the IRG was reprioritised to the river protection works. Which left the temporary seawall and the proposed seawall extension in limbo somewhat. Consents for both were applied for. Due to resourcing at council level, never being able to progress those in that 3-year period between 2022 and now. I did propose to Ops Committee and to the Joint Committee, and both of them endorsed that we do proceed with that direction of travel, i.e. get both those consent applications approved. But we, again, down to resourcing issues, we haven't been able to move on those as quickly as we would like. So what that's led to is us withdrawing both sets of applications and in return receiving an abatement notice from Western District Council for the unlawfully established temporary seawall beachfront there. Okay, and we've got through the end of February to respond to that. Now, I'm not criticising Western District Council for that move. That's it's a mechanism that they've used to keep themselves safe from a legal point of view, and we've got good comms and good dialogue with them over this issue. Okay. So
where to from here, Tom?
That's exactly what this paper's about. Yeah. Okay, so at the moment, our plan is to just park the seawall extension part of the proposal. The latest cost estimate for that, you might remember, which again was in 2022, was 11 million. We just don't have that kind of money right now. And at this point, the level of risk to the foreshore there isn't seen to be high enough that we are looking to progress that with any haste. Okay. So we're squarely focused on trying to deal with temporary seawall at the moment and getting that lawful or moving up. And that's all about responding to the abatement notice. Okay.
So is the temporary seawall holding?
Depends on what the beach is doing. So at the moment, we've had a really good period of accretion where the beach has lifted up to the point where, for the most part, the temporary seawall is buried. So there is no issue there right now. But when we have an erosion event like we did last winter, what happens is, because it's not towed in, it oversteepens and then it starts to fall out as a public safety issue, and then that starts to expose rubbish that's been hidden in the dunes for donkey's years as well. So what we're proposing to do is explore those two options. We'll carry out a risk assessment, what's the best one to do, i.e. either remove it and reuse that rock elsewhere to maintain the existing seawall in front of the CBD, for example, or to leave it there and reframe the retrospective consent application around its being there in place for a shorter term, say 3 to 4 years, to allow council to work through a longer term strategy for managing coastal hazards there with the community via the LTP process,
yes,
not via a statutory process, i.e. applying for consents.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So again, this item here, it's about an FYI. This is what we're proposing. It is a bit different to what we've talked to you about before.
Yep.
And once we've got that risk assessment completed and we have a confirmed direction of travel to recommend to you, which I'm anticipating will happen by the middle of next month, then we'll come back to you and ask for your approval of that changing direction.
No, I understand that.
Through the chair, in the meantime, we've got an asset or liability, depending on which way you want to frame it, that isn't having any works done to it based on the situation it sits in, which exposes certain landowners to to challenges from erosion events or big sea events. And we're just happy to accept that risk for now.
So
We're having to accept that risk for now.
that's what the risk assessment will be about, councillor Casson, is what is the level of risk now and over the period in question? And is it acceptable or is it not? And if it's not acceptable, then leaving it in place and getting it lawful so we can maintain it is clearly the priority.
Thank you. No more questions on this?
Chair. Appreciate the commentary there, Tom. I'd like to, you know, it's been hit on the head here by the conversation. When the sea is behaving itself and everything's right, there's not a problem. So people are quite happy to go and get the comfort of where it was placed, how it was placed, without legislation. The moment the sea starts to take a bite, there's a problem. My option favourite here, because this has been battered forth now for many years since we thought we were doing a favour the regional council by uplifting a stockpile on the ground at Camelback, and we thought we'll put it there temporary and stockpile it on the ground where it is now as a stopgap measure to stop the cycle of erosion at the time. Now, you know, consensus will rapidly germinate if it's removed with option 1. And that's what I would favour, because I can see this, with the way it's gone over the years previously. In 2005, I was one of 3 hearing commissioners that done the sewage ponds at Hokitika. We've had 3 extensions to the time for the Hokitika sewage ponds before they get addressed. Now we're going for the 5th one, and we're 20 years later. Because the moment the sea starts cutting into the sewage ponds properly, then a decision will be made, because it's the old attitude, she'll be right, it looks all right at the moment. And that's what's happening at Hokitika with this rock we've left on the beach. It's doing a job, it's protecting it. But until we bite the bullet and force consensus somewhere, I'm in favour of option 1. We shift it. Then we'll get some powers or we'll get some progress.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I could make a comment here, please. And I just want to really support Tom and what he's saying, in that this problem is not just an engineered seawall problem at all. It's a land use problem. And just like we've had the previous discussion with master planning at Franz, and all around the country, like South Dunedin, etc., the land use community and the community engagement around land use and planning rules around land use and all those sorts of things must be led by the relevant district council. That's what's happening around the country. The regional council's role is to support, as Shanti said just previously, around making sure that the most up-to-date and best natural hazard information that we have on sea level rise and coastal erosion, coastal inundation, that we've commissioned for the TTPP is there, but also our engineering expertise around seawalls and those sorts of things. All of that needs to go into a much more holistic master plan. In regards to seawalls of this type, so it is never going to be an engineered concrete seawall with sheet piling, etc., that you see in big cities. That's tens and tens of millions of dollars. This is low engineering riprap, basically, maybe with a filter cloth in behind. And generally what we're seeing is that the engineering fraternity will only sign these structures off for 10 years. And then what do you do? And that brings you to the much broader conversation around land use management and land use controls. So while we need to solve the immediate issue of the consenting matter here, there is a much broader conversation, and support Tom, that is a long-term plan conversation that Westland, supported by Western District Council, supported by the West Coast Regional Council, needs to have with its communities on a number of fronts here. And it is not just a silver bullet, which is throw the rock in and it's going to be right forever and a day. Thanks.
Thank you, Daryl. I think the best option there is to wait for the report. See all the information in front of us, then we can make an informed decision. Number 8, and 8.1. Good morning, Scott. How are you? 8.1, Prince Joseph, stage 1. The recommendation, it's the recommendation that the committee resolved to see the report. Can I please have a mover? Peter and Ashley sector. Thank you. Now, will you, Tom, or Scott, talk to this report?
These ones give you a bit of a break and give you a bit of a break from listening to me.
Morning, Scott.
Yeah, good morning, councillors.
Just before you start, Scott, there's 2 new people here that you might be familiar with. Colin Smith here on my right.
Nice to meet you.
And Ashley Cashin here on my left.
Hey, Ashley.
Scott, how are you, mate?
Councillors, very good, thank you. Cool. So, friends, Joseph, stage 1.
Yep.
Report. Yeah, I'll just go over the key highlights. So the key part we're at the moment is around the design of the stormwater and the stormwater tender that we got the contract at a price for those works. We've received some pricing back from MBD under their existing contract to put that stormwater pipe and the head walls through the embankment. The price came in slightly higher than around the 100K that we were anticipating. We've gone back to them to look at how we could reduce that cost, and we're waiting for feedback on that. We're also running that in parallel with the fact that we wanted to wait for a bit more dry weather and a bit more settled weather before we go ahead with that construction of that particular part. That's the last of the physical works. The other work that we've been working on in the background is just tidying up the as-built documentation and just some of the handover to the ops team in terms of how they, what they need in terms of just documents, etc., that they can work with in the future. But Tom, I'm not sure if you wanted to speak to it as well, but WSP have been engaged as an independent engineer in terms of any weather events or future weather events that need to inspect the banks as part of the ongoing operations.
Yes, I think most councillors, at least the ones on the Friends Joseph Joint Committee anyway, will be aware of this, but condition of consent for the upgrade on the North Bank there, that we had to have a asset monitoring and inspection plan in place. And there are triggers within that plan for inspections to be carried out after storm or at regular intervals, but also after storms that trigger an orange rain warning and then certain intensities and well, not flows because we don't monitor those in the Waiho, but now another condition in there was that that role couldn't be carried out by regional council staff. It had to be independent. So we've got WSP engaged on a service contract to do that for us.
Cool. So, Tom, is that a whole contract for government funding to do the works?
No, no. It was a condition associated with obtaining affected party approval from Senate Group.
Councillor Richfield?
Just like a question, the culvert.
Yes.
Presume the culvert is through the link bank. That's to deal with the build-up of stormwater from the town. It was ponding and it was running over the top of the bank.
Correct.
All we need to do was put a culvert in, like 2 or 3 meters down from the top of the link bank to run it through.
Correct.
So that seems a terribly high price for a simple culvert. But
that was my question to Scott. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, if it had been us, we'd have gone to Wrightson's or Farmlands, bought a couple of those plastic culverts, the meter ones, got a 12-ton digger and dug it down 2 or 3 meters into the bank, and maybe had to put a chute to let the water go. But maybe $10,000, but you spent $100,000, and to me, it's incredible.
So Scott, are you in a position to talk to the engineering department so that we can in a bit more detail, please?
I can talk in a little bit more detail. The concern was probably more around the erosion on the riverside, so not so much from the landward side out into the river. So they were talking around the anchor blocks there. They're also talking around the tracing of water and erosion alongside the pipe. So we have to put in some additional concrete sort of water stops to prevent water running alongside the pipe and causing erosion around or the embedment around the pipe. So it wasn't just as simple as putting just through the pipe work itself. It's a lot more work in terms of the stop logs and it's not so much the stop log, but the water stops and also the head walls. So the civil works was a bit higher than we anticipated in terms of that. But understanding in terms of the simple pipe installation, that was relatively the cheaper part of the whole lot. So everyone's worried about the erosion of the bank.
I'm not convinced, but anyway, thank you.
Are there any more questions from Scott? Stage one, Franz Joseph? No. 8.2, Franz Joseph, stage 2, operations committee status report, October 25. Recommendation that the committee resolve, receive and review the report. Can I have a move for that, please? Andy, Ashley. I'll leave that one up to you, Scott. That's on page 51.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So the key parts where we are at the moment is that we have we've obviously completed the rubbish dump bank works. Just in the process of the completion documentation with the ops team there. The other part is that the design was completed for the Milton's extension and has been out to tender. And we have been carried out a tender review, and there are a couple of queries just being resolved or gone back to contractors for responses. I think we've now just received that response from the last contractor, and we'll be putting together a recommendation around that contract award for that piece of work.
So that will then come to the tenders committee, is that correct?
So bringing your attention back to the amendment that we made to the procurement SOP.
Yep.
Where we present a procurement plan to Ops Committee or Council or Tenders Committee, which the body it happens to be.
Yep.
Present a budget or a cost estimate within that procurement plan that exceeds the CE's
threshold.
Yep. Then we are seeking. So the procurement SOP now provides that if we come in under that budget and there are no other fish hooks in there, then that just goes straight to the CE to sign off. And that's looking likely to be the case.
Okay.
Right.
So it's under the threshold.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Any questions on 8.2?
Yeah, through the chair. Scott, 11.4 Havel's Wall extension, obviously we've had a discussion around this already this morning. The costs to date on that part of the project, are they claimable or are they going to sit with regional council not for funding?
No, against the Havel's Wall extension, they are claimable.
Thank you.
Any more questions on 8.2? Okay, we'll move on to 8.3.
You better have the vote. Yeah, we got the vote. Did you vote? Did we vote on that?
Yeah. You mean moved and seconded it?
Yeah, we moved on.
Done that.
It's all against it. record my vote against receiving 8.2.
Oh, right.
Just receiving the report, aren't we?
We're just receiving a report. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a decision of any description. No.
I'm just making a wee point on
We're a bit lost, but anyway.
the Havel Wall probably extension.
Okay. So do you want that noted as the Havel Wall, not the whole 8.2? Just 8.2 on Havel Wall?
Just the Havel Wall part, but I'm concerned.
Okay. Yep.
Havel Wall extension, I totally oppose.
Yep. Again, it's just a talk. It's
Yeah.
not a decision on anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. 8.3, Hokitika Riverwall Operations Committee Status Report. On October, it's 8.3.1, October 5, West Coast Regional Council Operations Committee Project Status, Hokitika Riverwalls. It's recommended that the committee resolve to receive the report. Can I please have a mover for that? Thank you. Thank you. Stolen, Ashley. Now that would be you, or would it be you again, Scott? Yes.
Yeah, it's me again. Sorry.
Righto.
So key parts to the project, stage 1B, we've carried out a final inspection on that completion of those works. So there were some further works carried out on the extension of some of the stormwater and also tidying up of some of the retaining wall structures. A final inspection's been carried out, and the last piece of that work, which we're not happy with at the moment, is around the grass strike on the landward side of the bank at the lower end of stage 1B. So we're just going back to the contractors around how we manage that particular piece under that contract to work through spraying and looking at how we get a better grass strike on that particular section. We're also completing the handover documentation with the ops team, and this has been sort of an iterative process to just make sure that we align our completion documentation with them, and so that they can then look to hand over and operate going forward. Stage 3, which is from the bridge down to Sunset Point, we put out to tender for the engineering work for this on the basis of looking at the two parts around the additional funding under tranche 2, which is to look at the riprap repair being the first part, and then the uplift being the second part. Out of those tenders previously, obviously, it was awarded to Davis Ogilvy, that section. We've started the kickoff meetings with them and progress there. We've particularly around the riprap repair, focusing on the methodology around, particularly from the boat ramp down to the last section, just around the depth below water level and how we undertake that repair. And obviously that affects how we do the design work, basically back to the same design that was in the old catchment board of a 2-to-1 batter. So we've got the current height, we've obviously got that goes a fair way out into the river, and it's just around how we do the embedment work there, and making sure that we don't get any future scouring like's happened in the past. So that's been a bit of a focus from our design meetings. The secondary part to that has been around the uplift, and so we're just working through the remaining procurement packages for that and how that may look like to get the design work undertaken, and then obviously into the consultation phase with the key stakeholders around there, noting that there are many stakeholders in that particular section with the amenities that are there.
Thanks, Scott. I've just got one question on the stage 2, I think it is, on the sign off with the grass strike, and there's a few other bits and pieces you talked about tidying
1B.
up.
Yes.
1B, okay, so
yep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
There's no extra cost or any cost incurred on the council? Is it like it's still in budget, like they're not clawing back for any extra?
No, not at this stage, and this is just part of the works that they do. So yeah, so we're currently holding retentions on that piece of work. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not going to cost the ratepayer anything more than expected.
No.
Thank you. Any other questions on that from Scott? Okay. Rightio, thanks, Scott. We're going to 8.4, Greymouth Operations Committee Project Status Report. West Coast Regional Council on Operations Project Report Greymouth. It's recommended that the committee to resolve the report, receive the report. Can I have a move for that, please? Alan and Chris, second. Thank you. Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Greymouth.
Yeah, so Greymouth has been a bit of a holding pattern whilst we were waiting to hear back, particularly on the separable portion for the Western Mineral Sands section, which is on stage 1. From just a reminder, we uplifted the bank to the right height in there, but we didn't do any further work around the rock armouring until we had resolved the relocation of the WMS section. We have received the geotech reports and also the contamination testing, and we have gone back to them with the budget around that particular section. So we've only just received some feedback from them in the last week, and so we have not progressed any further works in that area at this stage.
Can I ask what the feedback was like?
Yes, it wasn't too concerning around cost. It was to relation to a feedback that they needed to resolve some things with Grey District Council. So I'm suggesting that we again call a meeting to push that along with Grey District Council and WMS to be able to put some timeframes in for them to make a decision, because we were on the understanding that most of the items had been resolved, so I'm not sure whether it revolves around their lease or what the hesitancy is in there to instruct the work.
Time is of the essence there. We don't want to be stalled by one party. Councillor Ewing?
Yeah, I agree, because we were given this some time ago. It was going to be a couple of months.
Probably around about
3 months.
4 months ago.
And now we're ticking on where
So just want to keep the acid on there, Scott. And sooner you have that meeting with the Grey District Council and WMS, the better.
Yeah, look, from our perspective, sorry, Tom, we wanted to be able to escalate it to you guys, to sort of make you guys aware of the situation, but also to be able to get someone to make a decision on which way we proceed. So, look, we've been trying to be pragmatic. We got the information late September, went back early October. We've been now another whole, about a month. We've been waiting for feedback, so we need to keep pushing.
Just to prepare councillors, so you understand there's 2 separate processes going on here. WMS are in the process of negotiating their lease for the port area, or that staging area. At the same time as they're working with us on realigning that section of Stop Bank. We're in good comms with relevant Grey District Council staff. We understand where they're at and understand that they have a meeting with WMS over the next couple of weeks, I think, to progress the lease side of things. As Scott said, was looking for a bit of a steer from you guys, which I think we've now got, which we'll communicate back to Grey District Council, the WMS, because we do need to be joined at the hip with Grey District Council on this one.
Yep, we just need some action on it, that's all, really. Yeah, because we've talked about a lot, but it's a vulnerable part if it's not complete. Thank you. Where am I now? Oh, Westport Flood Protection 8.5. October 25, West Coast Regional Council Operations Committee Project Status Report, Westport Flood Protection Scheme. It's recommended that the committee resolve to receive the report. Can I please have a mover for that? Colin and Chris. And I dare say it'd be my friend Mr. Blackwood be talking about.
Just before Peter starts, I'll lead a moment. So I think what you'll see this month, is further progress with the nature of the project status report.
Yep.
The key additions this month are much more detail around the risk and issues section. So what we're reporting to you there are just the critical and high level risks, not the medium and low level risks that we can manage within the project. And then in the public excluded section of the meeting, you will get your first financial report, status report as well. So I'll let Pete talk to the state of play section, and then I'll with some commentary on the health of the project as a whole.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tom. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, kia ora koutou, and sorry I didn't introduce myself very well to Regional Council Chair, Mr. Smith, and to Mr. Cashin before. But a big welcome and a big mihi from me. Okay, so this is a different format of report than normal, as Tom has explained. We've talked in this report, instead of a grinding report on everything done today, it's aimed more at what's done over the last monthly reporting period. However, to preserve history, in some cases, we do have to give a continuous state of play. You'll note it's quite a long report, and it reflects that we are working on very, very many faces at present. We're working all over the scheme. Right, first of all, I'm not going to talk about everything because I know this is a busy meeting. First of all, the Upper Buller River, upstream of the State Highway 67 bridge. Two very important items here. The GHD consultants are around 20% of the way through the final geotechnical and civil design. Resource priority has been given to the upper Orowaiti sections, though, with a target to construct most of that this financial year. They abut onto the Upper Buller. A second really important point is that because of the problem with government not giving funding for Carters and because of the impact of shutting out the overflows through the town, most of it then is carried in the river, but some of it is carried down to Carters Beach, which already has a flood risk. So this aggravates that. So we called quotes and we commissioned WSP to produce a resource consent application for the linked Upper Buller and Carters. And we are still on our target submission date for lodging the consent of mid-December. This is an extremely tall order. There's a whole host of environmental issues and also a tangata whenua one to resolve, but everyone, without exception, is working well with us. And it could be that we lodge and some of these difficult matters like bats that we don't think is an issue, but they can always be conditioned in a resource consent application that we recommend that. So we don't want to be held up to get the last piece of agreement. Obviously, it's very, very key for the landowners to get their approvals, and so we want to lodge this by mid-December to help identify specific consultation needs that the consent authority sees. Right, Orowaiti Easterns, very briefly. So we've done the geotechnical factual report from our boreholes and test pits. That's completed. So now we're onto an optioneering and feasibility assessment of this 1.6 kilometre section of stop banks and flood walls. We will probably commission this very soon. It is a very difficult section for a very narrow construction corridor adjacent to the estuary, but there are solutions. Upper Orowaiti, Stevens Road to Harney Road. That's all done, McKenna's. But Harney's Road to McKenna's, that's upstream. Final design there's 80% complete. And we're just currently assessing actually whether we do need a resource consent for that. And I should also go back to the Upper Bulla, the WSP planning advice. Of course, now it has to include the need for some consents from the Bulla District Council as in the TTPP. And that has definitely made life more complex and unexpectedly that requirement, because we didn't detect it through the formation of the TTPP, but we're working hard on it. Do you want to say something, Daryl?
No, thanks, Peter. You're right. You're good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the final design there is 80% complete and it's looking okay. There's another part of that Stevens Road to McKenna's. And again, we've received a fee proposal for the final design and this has been commissioned. Lower Orowaiti, this is from the Avery section, which I'll talk about separately or next. From the Orowaiti Bridge to Craddock Drive, this is either side of the 600-metre long Averys. And so the bit between Averys and the State Highway 67 bridge, we've just about got pretty final design plans. And geotechnical design will be very similar to the section adjoining the culvert in Avery's quick win section, but there's no culvert, so it's a bit simpler. We do have to resolve something though, because it's again quite narrow and we've got to avoid, it's really important we minimize any intrusion, if any, into the coastal marine area. And so we're looking at options there. Avery's, this is driving us all mad. But it is very, very important. There's a lot of bridges to cross to do this, and we think we're close. As I noted, we need a resource consent required from Bulla, and that's already been applied for, and it's going well. A major we received from the iwi sign-off at the end of last week from the Ngāti Waiwai, signed by Francois Tumahai. And so that's a good sign-off to receive. We've had very, very clear and good comms with the tangata whenua on this job and throughout the Bulla job this far. I'm not going to talk about the downstreamer bridge because it will take up too much time. But the North End Stop Bank, this is the same as the Easterns. We've also received a fee proposal for optioneering and feasibility, having received the geotechnical investigations factual report. So that's where we go next. Floating lagoon. So this is
Just
the
hold
next
it there
tab.
for a second, Peter. Just hold it there for a second. We'll just go through where we're.
Just on that, to the chair, on 1727, the downstream of the already downstream of the bridge, the lower wharf.
Yeah. I heard to
That
answer any question.
Just a quick one, the archaeological report that you're going to invest.
Yeah.
Just, you may not be aware that there's already been one done, and I'd hate to see double dipping going in there, because there's a 60 or 70 page report been already commissioned and done quite extensively in that area of the just around by the Pukekohe Bridge.
It's really important that you interjected, Councillor Cole. Thank you for that. If you could refer it to us, I was unaware of that. We have had Kirsty Sykes from Blenheim go through there, and I'm not sure if she's aware of this or not. I'll check that out. Yeah, there are issues down there. There is a site, and we may need to do some tests as we go down through there to further prove whether the
You'll pass it
or
on
not.
to Peter. Yep.
Okay, so we'll summarise that Councillor Cole will pass this report on. And we'll talk more about it next time because I'll know more next time.
So, and Mr. Chairman, if I could just really quickly comment, that archaeological site where what they call is the Whare is a very, very significant archaeological site for New Zealand, and can confirm that we have arranged for Francois and his staff to go up and visit, I think on the 27th, of visiting the site to look at the options. They've indicated a preferred option to us, but they would just like to visit the site given the significance of it. And also, we're going to take the opportunity to take them around the scheme as well on that day, so that they've got a full appreciation of everything that we're doing. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Yarrell. I'm really sorry. I was talking about another arch site, but it's important. We'll leave the other arch site, and Councillor Cole's indicated a report, and you've given the information on the Carter's arch site.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's two sites. Sorry, I thought we were speaking at the same one.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. And it would have been remiss of me not to say the words that you'd said. I would have got there. Yeah, so it's a nationally significant historic Maori, they call it a Maori archaic reserve. And CE has met with Francois, and we've drafted a letter, and Francois has given their advice. But that meeting on site will be really, really the other part of the visit, Daryl. So it's just as well you did mention that.
You're on the
So that's really key. That's me. I'm done. Yeah.
Excellent. So you've got a start date for Avery's, is that correct?
January. Yeah. We can't do it over Christmas. We have tested that. But the contractor was not happy to let it start up and then leave
that's going to be early January, just so that
early January. Yeah.
Thank you.
We still do not have a consent. But hopefully we're very close.
We'll have one by then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Bishop?
Yeah, my comment is that the slowness in the council progressing resource consents is actually starting to affect its own work. This Avery's culvert, it's been held up by getting consenting done by WSP, and that's an issue that I'm hearing about from other consent applicants, miners and that. It's just it's just not performing in your consenting area. I'm a wee bit late today because I had to take another phone call from another disgruntled miner. But I'm getting a lot of complaints all the time, and one of them is WSP consents are going up to North Island and they're not being progressed professionally.
Just so we've got some follow-up, and so I can understand the frustrations.
Can I clarify? Can I clarify?
Can I
it's not
finish?
WSP. You finish. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
We probably need to do this offline and find out the consultants. There's obviously a breakdown somewhere, and I don't want to point the finger at anyone until we got the information, and go offline, get numbers, names, people, and where the problems lie, sort it out once for all, because we don't want to hear this anymore. Sick of hearing it as a councillor. I want to get it sorted. Thank you. Is there any general business? Thank you very much, Peter.
I do need to clarify this because Councillor Birchfield has identified that WSP is holding this up. The consent people are BTW.
Okay,
that's the consultant. Thank you so much for
Peter,
raising it, though, Councillor
take,
Birchfield. Yeah.
We're going to take all this offline. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're going offline.
Yep. So, is there any general business on this, Councillor Ewing?
An issue I raised several months ago with the chair at the time, Councillor Haddock. It's an asset of Kiwi Rail outside Monk's Hotel here. The bridge of Kiwi Rail was catching slash and timber and logs, and at the time Kiwi Rail very quickly got onto it and removed it. It was on their structure. The situation is arising now and we're coming up to the close down season shortly, December, Christmas, New Year. And I think it needs addressing again because there's another build up there of more timber. And some of the timber's got up extra under the rail bridge, the road bridge. We've raised it with NZTA. Maybe the two of them put their heads together at the same time and one can get rid of the big stump that's under the highway bridge that's causing the aggregation of the gravel, because that's been a site in the past that the location of serious flooding, and just to get the mitigation in, we get rid of the log and the slash that's washed down from other parts. And Kiwi Rail will be very accommodating, they should be this time, and hopefully NZTA will too.
Appreciate that, Councillor Young.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I just capture that? So that's an action item for the GM of Catchment Management, Michael, to liaise with you, Councillor Ewan, to get away a couple of letters to both NZTA and to Kiwi Rail and join that up. Is that the action you're looking for there, Councillor Ewan?
Oh, I don't think it even required a letter last time. We just rang them up and they got.
Rang them up.
We make an action, it doesn't get forgotten.
Thank you.
We make an action, it doesn't get forgotten.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Any more general business? No, I declare the meeting closed at 11.
The motion excluded.
I just want to tell the time. Can I please move to go into public exclude? Can I have a mover, Alan? Can I have a seconder, Andy? I'll close the meeting now to go into public exclude. Can I tell the time now?
You can tell.
It's 11:32 now. It was 11:31 earlier.